Marcus Thompson stood in the doorway of the ramshackle cabin, his 8-year-old daughter Emma clinging to his weathered hand as autumn rain drummed against the sagging roof. The social worker had just driven away, leaving behind papers that would determine whether he could keep his little girl or lose her to the foster system forever. With only $17 in his wallet and a mountain of medical bills from Emma's recent surgery, this $1 cabin purchase at the county auction felt like his last desperate gamble at giving his daughter a real home. The cabin sat on 3 acres of overgrown wilderness 30 miles outside of Millfield, Ohio, a forgotten relic that the county had been trying to sell for years. Marcus had scraped together his last few dollars for the auction fee, knowing that even $1 was a stretch when you're choosing between shelter and your next meal. But as he looked down at Emma's trusting brown eyes, the same eyes her mother had before cancer took her 2 years ago, he knew he'd made the right choice. "Is this really ours, Daddy?" Emma whispered, her small voice barely audible above the rain. Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "It's ours, sweetheart. We're going to make it beautiful." The first few weeks were brutal. Marcus worked double shifts at the auto repair shop while Emma stayed with their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, who refused payment despite Marcus's protests. Every evening, they'd return to the cabin and work by flashlight, pulling up rotted floorboards and clearing debris. The place had no electricity, no running water, and holes in the roof that turned their living room into a swimming pool during storms. But Emma never complained. She'd sit on an overturned crate, doing homework by candlelight, occasionally looking up to offer encouragement. "The walls look much better now, Daddy, and I love how the stars shine through that hole in the ceiling. It's like having a skylight." 3 weeks after moving in, Marcus was replacing floorboards in what would become Emma's bedroom when his crowbar struck something metallic. Thinking it was an old pipe, he dug deeper, brushing away decades of dirt and debris. What he uncovered made his hands tremble. A metal strong box, old but intact, locked tight with a combination dial. His first instinct was to call the police, but curiosity got the better of him. After an hour of trying different combinations, the lock finally clicked open with the cabin's address numbers. Inside, wrapped in oiled cloth, were stacks of cash. Not just a few bills, but bundles upon bundles of 20s, 50s, and hundreds. Marcus counted with shaking hands, $847,000, nearly $1 million, buried beneath the floorboards of a cabin he'd bought for a single dollar. Alongside the money was a handwritten note dated 15 years earlier. "If you're reading this, then Ezra's finally gone and someone decent has found our life savings. We never trusted banks after losing our farm in '82. This money represents 50 years of hard work and careful saving. We never had children of our own, but we always hoped it would someday help a family build something beautiful. Use it wisely. A Harold and Martha Brennan." Marcus sat back against the wall, overwhelmed. This money could solve everything. Emma's medical bills, a real house, college tuition, security for decades to come. But something nagged at him. He researched the previous owners and discovered that Harold and Martha Brennan had indeed owned the cabin until Harold's death 12 years ago. Martha had passed 3 years later in a nursing home, and their nephew Ezra had inherited the property but never lived there, eventually letting it fall into tax delinquency. The next morning, Marcus drove to the county clerk's office and tracked down Ezra Brennan's contact information. Ezra, now in his 60s and living in Florida, seemed shocked to hear from Marcus. "A strong box under the floorboards." Ezra's voice cracked over the phone. "I had no idea. Uncle Harold was always secretive about money, but we thought he was just paranoid." Marcus took a deep breath. "Mr. Brennan, legally, I believe this money belongs to you as their heir. I wanted to do the right thing and contact you." There was a long silence before Ezra spoke again, his voice thick with emotion. "Mr. Thompson, do you have children?" "A daughter. She's 8. Harold and Martha spent their whole lives wishing for children. They would have given anything for a family. The fact that you called me instead of keeping quiet tells me everything I need to know about your character." Ezra paused. "I have a proposal for you." 2 days later, Ezra arrived at the cabin with his lawyer. Marcus was nervous, Emma was curious, and the lawyer looked skeptical about the whole situation. But Ezra, a kind man with Harold's same gentle eyes, had a plan that surprised everyone. "I want to give you half the money outright," Ezra told Marcus. "But the other half, I want to establish as a trust fund for Emma's education and future. However, there's one condition." Marcus waited, hardly daring to breathe. "I want you to use some of that money to fix up this cabin and turn part of the property into a small retreat center." Martha always dreamed of helping families in need. "I think she'd love knowing this place became a sanctuary for people going through hard times." The lawyer started to object, but Ezra held up his hand. "Harold and Martha would have wanted their money to create something lasting, something that helps people." This young man could have kept quiet and kept it all, but he chose honesty. That's the kind of person they would have trusted with their legacy. Word of Marcus's honesty spread through their small community faster than wildfire. Local contractors offered to work at cost to renovate the cabin. The lumber yard donated materials. Emma's teacher organized a fundraiser that brought in another $15,000 for the retreat center project. But the real surprise came 3 months later when a representative from a major development company showed up at Marcus's door with an offer that made his knees weak. "Mr. Thompson, we understand you own this property and have come into some resources for development. We're prepared to offer you $2.3 million for these 3 acres. We want to build luxury condominiums here." Marcus looked out at the land where Emma now played every afternoon, where they'd started a small garden, where the foundation for the retreat center's first cabin was already being poured. 3 families had already stayed there during difficult times: a veteran dealing with PTSD, a widow facing foreclosure, and a teenage mother who needed a safe place while getting back on her feet. "I appreciate the offer," Marcus said, "but this land isn't for sale." The representative increased the offer to $3.2 million, then $4 million. Marcus's answer never changed. That evening, as he tucked Emma into her new bedroom, painted yellow with star stickers on the ceiling to remind her of those first nights when the roof leaked, she looked up at him with those wise 8-year-old eyes. "Daddy," Mrs. Rodriguez said, "some men wanted to buy our house today for lots and lots of money." Marcus sat on the edge of her bed. "They did, sweetheart. But what do you think about that?" Emma was quiet for a moment, then smiled. "I think Harold and Martha would be happy that we are helping people instead of selling their special place. And besides, we're rich in the ways that really matter, aren't we?" Marcus kissed her forehead, marveling at the wisdom of children. "We absolutely are, Emma. We absolutely are." A year later, the Brennan family retreat had helped dozens of families through difficult transitions. Marcus had paid off all their debts, Emma's trust fund was secure, and they lived simply but comfortably in their renovated cabin. The property buzzed with life, vegetable gardens tended by guests, children's laughter echoing through the woods, and the warm glow of windows where families found hope during their darkest hours. Marcus often sat on his front porch in the evenings, watching Emma play with other children who were staying at the retreat. Sometimes he thought about that initial $17 in his wallet, about how close they'd come to losing everything, about the incredible chain of kindness that started with Harold and Martha's trust in humanity. The money buried under those floorboards had been worth nearly $1 million, but the life they'd built on top of it filled with purpose, community, and the daily opportunity to offer hope to others that was truly priceless. Marcus had bought a cabin for $1 and discovered that the greatest treasures aren't always the ones you keep, but the ones you choose to share.